Soulful Sauna, Stories of Self-Mastery. Thank you for joining us. It is you, the viewer, that makes this podcast. Your host, Juliette Noske, and her guests are here to share stories of self-mastery, to inspire you and ignite the power of positive change on your own journey. Thank you for being with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I have the pleasure of having the wonderful and special guest of Chloe Morant. Wonderful to have you here, Chloe. And I would love to introduce Chloe. We have met very recently, and Chloe has been on her journey of self-mastery for a while now. And more recently, she has qualified as a Pilates instructor and really discovered her purpose in life. And she's also on a mission to help others to find theirs. And we actually met because of a community class that I do in Surrey for a group of Bengali women and women from Ukraine and Persia. And this is why we met. So I feel very privileged to have met you and to have you here on the podcast. Welcome, Chloe.
Hello, Juliette. Thank you for having me. The feeling's mutual. I feel like we kind of hit it off straight away, didn't we? I think our values align on quite a few different levels, I found, for sure. And it's been a pleasure listening to your podcast so far, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you. And so my first question to you, I can see that you're in your sauna there as well. And I'd love to know if you have a sauna story. So if you visited the sauna ever, or why you visited the sauna.
So I've mainly used to visit saunas after I'd been to the gym. My gym in particular, so I grew up in Cornwall, and the gym in Cornwall used to have a sauna, and it was lovely because it felt like you could cleanse yourself. You're cleansing yourself from toxins. You're pushing yourself to the limit with what heat you can withstand, and I just think you feel fantastic. I mean, a sauna's a good all-rounder for well-being, for your mind, for your skin, for your internal organs. And I think you feel absolutely fantastic afterwards. Actually, what's come to me now is I had a sauna experience in Canada fairly recently. So I know, like you were born in Canada, as was I. And on a recent trip to Canada, I was in a sauna there, and I was lucky enough to be on my own, and just nice to sit there with my thoughts and sit there with my own space, because a lot of the time you're sharing the sauna with other people. I think it's a different experience when you're on your own. You're alone with your thoughts to soak up the heat, and you can just kind of get lost in it, really. And it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial on many levels, not just the physical level, but also on a mental level, and giving that space for contemplation. When I was in the sauna today, actually, even though there was someone in there, I was just completely quiet and really zoning in on my own thoughts and my own energy. So I relate. Yeah. And you said that you already listened to the podcast a little. What drew you in to the podcast when you were listening?
I think I quite liked the introspective questions that you asked, because I often ask myself these questions as well, which kind of was what propelled me to start on my own spiritual journey into Pilates. So it's the if not you then who, if not now then when sort of thing. And it's never the right time to pursue your dreams, is it? I think if you wait around for the right time, you'll be waiting forever. So I just I enjoyed the fact that you're questioning, like, what's my purpose, because I felt like that spoke to me quite a lot, because I've been thinking the same thing, and it really quite resonated with me. It's good to be introspective. I find myself being a lot more introspective these days. I think you're asking the important questions, and I like that.
Yeah, one of my great mentors, actually, one of the things he said to me is it's the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. Because, you know, the questions that I maybe asked myself when I was a lot younger was, oh my God, why did you do that? You're so stupid. I can't believe it, you know, and kind of really being critical. And it's not that I'm never critical on myself now, because one of the things that I can slip into quite easily is being very critical of myself, if I don't keep a handle on it. But now I'm more aware of that, and I'm more able to ask quality questions. So, you know, asking myself, for example, well, okay, that didn't go as well as you wanted to. What can you learn from it? How can you improve on it? And yeah, I think we are always asking ourselves different questions, aren't we? And
Absolutely.
it's about learning and shaping those questions so that they can help us move forward and open us up, I guess. And yeah, help us to move forward and learn and grow.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Yeah. So can you remember what a pivotal moment for you on your spiritual and self-mastery journey was?
So I think I've always kind of been into the yoga scene, the Pilates scene. I've been doing Pilates probably for well over kind of 10 years. But what really kind of drew me into the spiritual side of it was my mum unfortunately passed away 2 years ago from pancreatic cancer, and her diagnosis was very quick. You know, she had, from diagnosis to death, it was 6 weeks. Pancreatic cancer is one of the biggest killers. You know, it's got like a 2% survival rate. So yeah, and I think when you go through a traumatic experience like that, you're kind of searching like for meaning and for support from wherever you can kind of get it. Some people may go down the religious route. I went down the spiritual route, and I discovered, you know, meditation techniques, breath work, which has been really, really important to me. I did this breathwork challenge that I found on Instagram with one of my favorites, Charlie Malt. Have you heard of her?
No, I haven't. No.
She's wonderful. She was my chiropractor, and now she's gone to the kind of the breathwork and the retreat side and stuff, and she's absolutely fantastic. So I remember on the breathwork, when I started doing breathwork, it was difficult. I found it really hard. You know, shallow breath, you hold a lot of tension in your chest, and it was a tense time for me. So yeah, it helped me, you know. I can't even, you know, explain how much the breath work and the meditation and the Pilates all kind of tied in together, and it really helped me out, along with, you know, therapy and stuff as well. But that was kind of what set me off on my spiritual journey.
And can I ask what type of therapy you had?
So I've had CBT in the past, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy, but it was just talking therapy,
Yeah.
standard therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. And did they help you with asking like different questions? Because you said how you contemplate a lot.
Yeah, she's very, very, very good. I think sometimes it's hard to find like a really good therapist, and this was kind of during just coming out of COVID, so it was all on Zoom, which is not, you know, can be harder to get to grips with a therapist. But no, she was really good, and yeah, she asked the hard questions. She asked the questions that some made me feel awkward to answer, but sometimes you need to feel awkward. You need to be put in the place of uncomfortableness to grow. So
yeah. Yeah, and you did actually say how you spoke about before when we were talking about that when people experience extreme trauma, then that can kind of either inspire them to change, or it can inspire them to use or do things that kind of dull the pain.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I went into self-destruction mode for a bit, but it didn't serve me. So,
Yeah.
you know, I came up the other side, and I'm probably in the best place I've ever been with the help of all this kind of, you know, the spiritual side of everything and the fitness side, and yeah, mentally and physically, I feel in a pretty good place, which I'm happy about.
Fantastic. So if you were to tell us a crazy but true fact about yourself, what might that be?
So random. Last time I timed myself, maybe don't hold me to it today, I'm very tired, but I can plank for 11 minutes and 40 seconds, which is quite a long time.
Yeah, 11
Yeah.
minutes. That is a long time.
Mm.
And what gave you the inspiration to time that?
I like to challenge myself. So I like to, I did a plank one day and I was like, I reckon I can hold this for a couple of minutes. And then the next time I was like, I'll hold it for 5 minutes. And then I was like, I can hold it for longer. But that was the maximum. I couldn't hold it for any longer than that. But maybe one day I'll get up to 12 minutes. Who knows?
And have you always done that in your life as far back as you can remember? Have you always kind of challenged yourself?
Yes. I'm very, like you said about, self-criticism and stuff. I'm very self-critical and I always challenge myself and strive to do better, maybe to my own detriment sometimes.
And has that been always just physically or as well mentally, or?
Both, really, both, I would say. I've also suffer quite badly with anxiety, which is why I had the CBT therapy originally. Yeah, I just think I'm quite tough. I give myself a lot of tough love, really.
Yeah. And if I come back to the breathing techniques, what was one of the simplest, easiest breathing techniques that you learned that was really useful for you?
Deep belly breathing. Just, breathing into your belly. It's not always obtainable though. I find, when, like, for instance, I've asked my partner to do it and he doesn't do breath work at all and he finds it quite difficult. And we talked about how you store a lot of tension in your chest and, he shallow breathes quite a lot. But I remember when I finally managed to kind of master it, and I think it's brilliant. It's what you need in like a space of calm, when you just want to have a moment for yourself.
Yeah. Actually, when I'm teaching this in a yoga class, because often at the beginning or sometimes at the end of the class as well, when people are laying down, I will actually teach them this, and I will go around the room, and check on everyone, because even though you're giving those verbal instructions, sometimes people find it, like you say, they find it harder to embody it. And one of the instructions that I will give that really, really helps is for them to push their stomach out as far as they can push it. And you imagine the stomach is like a balloon. So if someone was laying down flat on their back, they push their tummy up towards the sky, towards the ceiling, and expand it. And when I actually learned this breathing technique, what I realized was how much I hold my tummy muscles in. We're taught and we're trained to hold it all in. And they say that not only are we digesting our food, but we're also digesting our emotions in the belly area.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you said, if we're holding a lot of kind of emotional tension as well, and that can be quite tight. So for your partner, or maybe, anyone else out there listening in, what you can do is, if you want to practice this, as you inhale down to the belly, place the hand there, because that brings conscious connection. So you're actually touching the area where you want to bring the breath. And when you inhale, almost feel like you're pushing the tummy out, so it's expanding like a balloon. And then when you exhale, you push the belly button down towards the floor to release all of the air. And sometimes that process can really, really help someone if they're in the learning stages. And so did you learn any other breathing techniques?
Yeah, so I quite like the box breathing technique, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And I also quite like the breathing in, holding at the top, and then taking in like another little sip of air, tensing everything, and then releasing. It's a really nice emotional release, I think, when you need it. Breathing's so powerful, and I never realized it before. It's something we do you know, subconsciously we don't even think about it, do we? So
yeah, and obviously the heart's beating all the time. And you know, we don't think and tell the heart, you know, when to beat, but through the breath we can actually impact this and regulate it and change the heartbeat. I don't know if you've ever done that when you've done exercise, and then you really like lengthen the breath, and you can really help the heart rate come back into a natural rhythm, from that kind of raised rhythm when you've been running or whatever you've been doing, cardio exercise, and then bring it right down.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah. And can you remember a situation where you were in some form of kind of stress, tension, or anxious moment, and you were able to remember that breathing technique and utilize it?
Yes, yeah, because I can genuinely. So I also kind of tied that in with what my therapist gave me, the traffic light system. So, you know, you assess the situation by how stressed you are. So, you know, if you're in a really high stress environment, you associate that with a red, and then you deal with it accordingly in terms of your breath. So I would say a time that sticks out for me that I thought was a bit of an amber to red occasion was my commute. So my daily commute was just, you know, packed in like sardines, and I absolutely hated it. And it would stress me out. And there'd always be delays. So I used to have to get a bus, a train, and a tube. So if one missed or like one was late, it would have a knock-on effect, and it stressed me out no end. And I remember sitting on the bus and knowing I was going to miss my train, and I had to like close my eyes and breathe, because otherwise I was going to have a meltdown. So yeah.
Yeah.
London life for you.
Yes, and I'm sure lots of listeners out there can really relate to that as well. I know that I travel on public transport sometimes, and I know that feeling as well. And so I'm sure there are people out there that can utilize that breathing technique and that system. I love that. The red, green, amber. Is it red, green, red, amber?
Red, amber, green. Yeah.
Red, amber, green. Yeah, and assess that. So you were in a different life altogether before you opened up your own company. So what was the trigger point that had you shift from your previous work? So your previous role was in marketing, is that correct?
Yeah, I did marketing for an investment company. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to work for someone else. I wanted to be my own boss and do my own thing. I came back again, the same Canada trip. I came back and I was like severely jet lagged, and I just remember lying in bed. I couldn't sleep, and I was just like, I think I have to change my life. Like, I just don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. Like, there's got to be more to it than that. Like, you know, I want to do something that actually makes me happy. So, you know, I kind of just thought, oh, you know, Pilates is something I absolutely love. So why not actually take the leap and pursue that as a career? Yeah, so that's what I did.
And what did you have to sacrifice and in order to make that change? So were there sacrifices that you had to make?
I guess money.
Yeah.
As superficial as it is, you know, money was a factor. But at the end of the day, I couldn't really put a price on my freedom. So, you know, I sacrificed the big city job. Some people in my family were a bit like, is that the right decision? And I was like, it's the right decision for me. So yeah, I guess sacrifice was kind of money and structure, but I didn't know if I wanted the structure anymore. I wanted, you know, more freedom and flexibility.
Yeah. There's a really great story that I was told once, and I'm not sure, I'll see if I can get it right, but basically there's a guy, and he has this business, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he starts off, with a couple of cars doing, or a couple of lorries kind of doing deliveries. And then he gets more lorries doing bigger runs, and till he owns, loads of lorries, and he's working really hard and lots of hours, and he's in the big city. And then he goes on holiday because he wants some time to, downtime, to relax and get away. And so he books himself a holiday by the seaside, and he's on his holiday, and he sees that there's a fisherman there, and he goes out with the fisherman. He books himself a trip out with a fisherman, and they go out in the boat, and the fisherman does his, gets his catch for the day, and the businessman kind of joins him and, has a lovely relaxing day of fishing. And then they're traveling back, and the fisherman then, sells off his fish and everything, and the businessman watches and observes, and then, has a little conversation to him, a little chat, and he says, I see that you did quite a good catch today. And the fisherman said, oh yes, my family will be happy. I've sold some, I've made some money to live off, and I'm going to take some of these fish home as well for my family. And the businessman said, oh, that's great. He said, but why don't you think of expanding? Because, if you fished a little bit more for a bit longer, then you would be able to get more fish. And the fisherman said, well, I like to go home and spend time with my family. And the businessman said, yeah, maybe you could get another couple of boats, and you could get some people to work for you. And the fisherman said, yes, but that's more responsibility. And even though I wouldn't be out on the boats, I'd still be managing the other people on the other boats. And the businessman said, yeah, but if you fished more and you had more boats and you worked harder, then you could have enough money to do other things in life. And the fisherman said, what kind of things? And he said, well, go on holiday and enjoy your life. And the fisherman said, but I don't need to go on holiday because I enjoy my life as it is. I have time to spend with my family. I have time to relax. And sometimes I almost think like we go on holiday to escape our lives, or, the kind of people that they live for the weekend. So like you say, when you're in your job, and you spoke earlier about how your values didn't align with the company, and you work Monday to Friday, and you kind of live for the weekend almost.
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my company. Like, they were very good to me, and I had some wonderful years there. And my boss really helped me out, and no, it was nice. But in the end, my end goal is to move to Cornwall, to be able to do, my passion in Cornwall. And like you were saying, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's the dream, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. That's good that your boss was good to you as well, and that you had a nice boss that you worked with.
I did. Yeah. I owe a lot to him.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And they must be happy now seeing you kind of step out on your own and you open your own company.
Yeah, they've all reached out, and everyone's kind of, shown their support and stuff. And yeah, they've all wished me the best, which is lovely.
Yeah. Really and nice. Your company is called Ikigai Pilates, isn't it?
It is.
Can you tell me more about that?
So it's funny, it's kind of come full circle from my old job to my new venture, because when I left, my colleagues bought me the Ikigai book. I don't know if you've heard of it or seen it.
Yes.
And I think everything just kind of slid into place. Like, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be for, like, and the kind of the universe has given me all these signs, one of these signs being the book. And I read the book, and I was like, no, it's amazing. And I finished the book. I sat back and said, because I was thinking of a name to call my Pilates company. And Pilates for me is my purpose, and Ikigai is the Japanese word for purpose. And, you know, Pilates for me is my purpose, and I'd like to help others find their purpose through Pilates movement, fitness, and well-being. You know, Pilates might not be everyone's Ikigai, but I think everyone can, you know, benefit from fitness and well-being, which is kind of what I'm trying to bring to the table, really, with my company.
Yeah. So with the book that your old work gave you, can you tell us, because some of the listeners, they might not have heard of Ikigai, can you explain a little bit more about it for us?
Yeah, so the Ikigai, like I said, is the Japanese word for purpose, for an individual person's purpose, and it stems from Okinawa in Japan, which is the island of the most concentrated area of 100-year-olds and above in the world. And the Okinawa is considered a blue zone, and there's 5 blue zones in the world, which is where people live to over 100, like multiple people, a concentrated area of people live to above 100. And, you know, they've got certain things they do, like they eat to 80% full. They have the majority of their diet is plant-based. They share a great community spirit. They never fully retire. They don't live a sedentary lifestyle. They're always working in the garden, or, you know, going for a walk or socializing. And I think you can learn a lot from those sort of principles. And that's what the book was about, really. And yeah, it was a really good book.
Yeah. And it sounds like it really resonated with you.
It did, massively. It was like the epiphany that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah. And it's funny how when we listen to our heart and follow our heart, those kind of synchronicities take place, things that we might maybe call coincidences, but it's almost like they were meant to happen for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? How everything aligns when you least expect it, almost. It's funny. The universe is a funny thing.
Yeah. And so in your last work, you did marketing. And with your marketing, would you say that you're using that now within your company?
I do it for social media. Obviously, it's good to have the knowledge. So yeah, I mean, I do it on my social media, and it's good to know how to like make a website and stuff. But it's definitely something I'm not trying to put all of my time into. Obviously moving away from it. But it's important to have a social media presence, obviously, in this day and age.
Yeah. So those little threads are kind of weaving in.
Yeah, for sure. Although I'm a bit, now that I don't do social media for a living, I'm a bit like, do I need it? But I think you do, obviously, in this day and age.
Yeah. I think again, though, it's about following your heart. I know there are individuals in the world that I'm in contact with that don't have a website, and they have, you know, they're full. Their client base is full, and they're working fully every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, that works for them. So again, there is no one rule for everyone. So it's, you know, it's completely different for every individual.
It's true.
Yeah. My next question is, what would your advice be to anyone else who is working in a job that they maybe they felt like they didn't want to continue in that pathway, and they felt that their purpose was somewhere else, but they didn't know where it was?
I think that you don't really know when to take the jump. I think when the opportunity presents itself, it'll present itself when you least expect it. Like with me, for instance, when I was jet lagged in bed, and then suddenly I was like, boop, light bulb moment. But I mean, not everyone has a light bulb moment. I feel like if you even have the inkling that you want to take the leap, and you want to leave, and you want to pursue a different passion, then, you know, if you have the means financially to do it, then, you know, to support yourself in the meantime, then I would say do it, because there's never a right time. As you said, you know, if not now, when? It all kind of comes full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's I think something you've mentioned there is key, because sometimes we might say, you know, yes, I want to fulfill my purpose and I need to take that leap, but actually maybe what you do is go part-time so that you can support yourself,
Yeah.
you know, financially. There are ways where you can do it, because some people do have to maybe support a family, or, you know, other people within their lives that they're kind of helping out. So there's not one way to do it, is there? There's lots of different ways that they can go.
Exactly. I think if you really want it, you'll find a way to make it happen, I would say.
And where do you see yourself from, like, 5 years from now, for example? Do you have any idea where you see yourself in 5 years?
It's funny, I do. I think, as I said, the end game is to go back to Cornwall, open my own studio, and hire other, you know, Pilates instructors that are just starting out like myself. Yeah, and have my own business down there. That's the end goal. I don't know if it's 5 years achievable, but you know, we'll see. You've got to start somewhere. So
Yeah. And what is the driving factor behind being in Cornwall, behind going to Cornwall?
because I love it. It's where my heart is. So I was born in Canada, moved over here when I was 10. I love Canada, but I don't know. I think my family mostly live in England, so I think I probably want to stay in England. And I think Cornwall's more obtainable because, you know, I've got roots there. So it's just going back to my roots. And I'm a country girl at heart, definitely not a city girl. So I think it's time for me to go home, really.
Yeah. And what with your Pilates, can you remember the first day that you started doing Pilates?
Do you know what? I actually can. I can remember when I've been doing it for so long. I can remember when I started doing yoga.
Yeah.
I did a class at a gym, and I feel like Pilates probably was along the similar lines. I just remember being not very good, obviously, and being like, but I enjoyed the principles and I enjoyed the fitness side with a bit of, you know, the well-being side, and I was like, no, that's for me. So I guess it would have been when I went to the gym, probably at uni. So, you know, over 10 years ago or so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say for someone starting out on their Pilates journey? What are the benefits that you've seen in your own life?
Oh, there's a multitude of benefits. I would say stick at it. It's difficult, but you're going to get strong every time you do a class. You get stronger and stronger. It's good for your posture. It's good for your, you know, it's good for your mind. It's good for your body. It's good for the soul. I think, you know, you can get so much out of it. You don't need to be flexible. You know, it all comes in time. You know, I just think it's such a good fitness regime for anyone, really. I think it's really accessible for everyone. So I would say to someone just starting out, stick at it and, you know, enjoy the journey, I think.
We actually we have a wonderful photograph of my grandma at about 95, where she has the red Pilates ball in between her knees with her red lipstick and her red nails and her lovely dress on. And she used to have this instructor who would come to her home and do her Pilates class with her. And, you know, you have the ball in between the knees and you squeeze the knees together. And, you know, so that was 95, I think she was.
Wow.
So, yeah, and her toy boy was 87.
Amazing. Toy boy.
Yeah. So like you say, you're you know, at any age you can join in and do these things.
Yeah, you can, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So my next question for you is, at what age do you think that you became, like, more aware of maybe your thoughts or your feelings, and yeah, like you said that you're aware now that you're quite critical, or you can be quite critical of yourself. Can you remember at what age you started realizing those kinds of things and kind of being more aware, self-aware?
I think I've always been quite inquisitive, like even as a child. I'm an only child, so I don't know if that makes any difference. But I remember I was always kind of asking my parents questions. Or they call me like the why bird. Why this? Why that?
Yeah.
Um, from as long as I can remember, really. I think it's more pertinent now to question things. I think everyone should always be questioning things.
Mm.
So yeah, I'd say from a young age.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down, the why bird. I love that, because I also work with young people, and one thing that we encourage is curiosity.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes, because I was also a teacher in a previous life, I know that sometimes as a teacher of 30 young people, and you're trying to, teach a specific subject, and you have a time restraint, that sometimes when they're always asking why, we can tend to, as adults, ask them not to ask that because of time restraints, unfortunately. But actually, that curiosity and that always asking why is a huge part of our learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should always be asking questions all the time.
Yeah. So do you think you always questioned everything, or do you think you were accepting sometimes of other people's kind of opinions and views, or do you think you always questioned?
I think I'm definitely also a people pleaser. So, I mean, I do question things, but I also like to, kind of keep everybody happy.
Mm.
So, I think my partner's been quite good at like making me be a little bit more set my boundaries out, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's only fairly recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always been inquisitive, but I think, sometimes I'd learned to keep my mouth closed if I thought it would be a bit controversial. But I think as I'm getting older, I'm 31 now, I don't mind as much. I think you care less and less about what people think of you. So
Yeah. If you were to give your younger self of, say, 9 years old some advice, what would that be?
just, I guess, don't doubt yourself. You just don't doubt yourself. Believe in, trust your own process, trust yourself, and know that everything will be okay. Because I think I had a lot of self-doubt when I was younger. So I think I would just say to, hang in there, kid. Everything will be right.
Yeah, trust yourself and don't doubt yourself. And what helped you to begin to trust yourself more?
I think I believe more in my abilities. I think when you're a kid and going through puberty and stuff, like you're all over the place. So I think, I guess self-trusting probably comes a little bit more with age and experience. You said you might fail. I think originally when you're younger and you fail, it's the be all and end all. But I think you learn from your failures and just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back on the horse, sort of thing. So I think with like age and experience, I would say.
Yeah. There's a wonderful, wonderful quote that is failing your way to success.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And that realization that actually failure is not failure in the sense that maybe we see it, but failure is actually a stepping stone to learning and growing.
It is, exactly. Yeah. See that now. I didn't when I was younger, but I think I definitely see it now.
Yeah. Thank you. So, can you tell me, on your self-mastery journey, are there any other tools that you have picked up and learnt that would help the audience out there?
I think I'd recommend anyone to try out meditation, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. I know a lot of people don't have time, but even if you have 5 minutes out of your day to close your eyes, you know, lie down, even just do some deep belly breathing, take some time out for yourself. And even if, you know, you feel a bit uncomfortable with meditating, some people do, you know, just close your eyes and breathe, I think is an important thing.
Yeah. One of the things I'm actually planning to do with the podcast is create some meditations as well, so that one week I'll be releasing a meditation so that people can actually practice with that. So that would be an opportunity. I also think, did you do any meditation courses at all?
I didn't. I mean, have you heard of an app called Insight Timer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my therapist recommended me to get that, and they do like little courses on that. So, you know, I've done little courses, nothing like too extreme or anything, but I'd definitely be open to doing more.
Yeah. Did you have any questions that arose as you did your meditation, and were you able to then ask your therapist?
It brought up a lot of feelings of I think I felt a little bit lost. Like it made me feel, I felt quite lost a lot of the time after losing my mum. And I think sometimes when I meditated, it brought up a lot of like emotions, and it brought a lot of the feelings of loss and stuff to the surface. So I would then talk to my therapist about why in particular this was having such an emotional effect on me. But it made kind of like some, you know, deeper feelings come up to the surface, and then I would obviously talk about them.
Yeah. So you obviously had your therapist to go to speak to.
Yeah.
I guess people who are doing this on their own, they could either find a therapist or maybe even a friend or someone that they're close to speak to if things are coming up. But definitely worth people reaching out and talking with someone if things do come up.
100%.
Yeah, that's why I find that a course is quite good if you do a course, and then as you're practicing, along with the practicing, things are coming up. But I guess as well, it depends on whether people are going through a particular trauma or whether they say that we all have experienced trauma in our own way in our life. Yeah.
And I think another good technique that I've just remembered as well, that I've done when I've done breath work and meditation, is journaling. You just write down like a string of consciousness after you've, you know, whatever came up for you during that meditation practice or that breath work practice, and then you can kind of read it back, and it's just interesting to see what place you were in when you wrote it, and then maybe you might have shifted, like maybe even an hour later, and almost putting the words out on a page is therapy in itself, because it's almost like you're expelling the feelings onto a page. If that makes sense.
Yes, we use journaling as well as part of our Wellness Wednesday evenings.
Oh, fab.
We have a Wellness Wednesday at 7:30 every Wednesday online. And journaling, meditation, mindfulness, they're some of the tools that we use as well. So
love that. Awesome.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
So my Instagram handle, you know, back to the old social media, is Ikigai Pilates UK. So that's IKIGAI and then Pilates and then UK.
Yeah, I can put these all in the blurb as well so that people
that would be really helpful.
Find you. And I noticed that you're also regularly doing mini videos as well to inspire people to get moving.
Yeah, they're just 10-minute little snippets, because I think, again, it's like people don't have a lot of time. They want something quick.
Yeah.
Something that can just fit into their day. So yeah, I've been doing my Fab 5 series, which is just 5 exercises that you repeat, and it's 10 minutes long. And yeah,
how do you keep sorry, say
no,
that
I was gonna say it's got quite a good response. People tend to like it.
Yeah. And how do you stay motivated to do that?
I just love it. I love fitness, and I just kind of want to share. I just want to share it with people, and if people get a kick out of it and they enjoy doing the workouts, I want to do more for them. I think it's about helping people, I think, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're all about serving and service. And I think when we're thinking about what we want to do in the world, the education system can maybe not quite get that framing of the fact that when we serve, when we offer our service, the money that we're receiving is in response to what we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than where we're almost trained to believe that we have to go out there and get a job to earn money. Mm-hmm. It's like the first focus is go and get a job to earn money, mm-hmm. rather than what value, what service can I provide to others, and the money will come with that.
Exactly.
And it's a completely different focus from maybe what we see in our schools and what young people are being kind of trained into, like, focusing on. And it's one of the big things that I would love to shift in the world, is that shift from the profit and, you know, the focus on, because money's fantastic, it's energy, and it's, you know, you've got to keep that flow going. But if that's what we're if that's the only thing we're focusing on, then it's solely for the getting of the money. Whereas it seems that you're really focused on the value that you can provide to others, that service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, success is, a lot of people deem success as, you know, the amount of money you have in the bank. To me, success is, you know, the reason you get out of bed in the morning. You know, I think success comes from, well, I guess it comes from within, really. I would say I would equate success to happiness. I think the more happy I am, the more successful I feel.
That's a great question as well for people to contemplate now. You could even write it down for yourself if you would like to. You know, what does success mean for me? And really explore that. Maybe do a mind map or a creative visual, written, or, you know, pictures, whatever you want to do, and really think about that. And I think sometimes we have many voices in our head. This is one of the things I mentioned in my book that I wrote about how to have the love of your life. It was like looking at all the voices in your head and the rules that you have around relationships, and realizing that there's so many voices in our head. Some of them are from our parents, some of them are maybe from our religion, some of them are maybe from how we grew up, where we grew up, our school culture. Some of them are from society, the wider society, or the country and the culture we live in. And these voices, I started kind of observing all the different kind of rules and regulations I had around relationships. But you can do it with any area of life. So if you look at success, we can say, you know, okay, so what are all these things about success floating around in my mind? And do I actually believe in them?
Yeah.
I mean, did you find there was a shift there for you when you started realizing that you wanted to change your job? Did you start realizing the shift in what you're thinking? Oh, that's what success is.
I did, yeah. I think my values kind of changed. I was thinking, like, society tells you to, you know, get a job, go to work, put on a suit, take the train, go into the office. That's, you know, earn good money. That's deemed as what society tells you is successful. But then, you know, I kind of thought to myself, took a step back and did almost like my own mind map in my head. And I was like, well, asking myself, is that success though? Because, you know, I wasn't, you know, necessarily that happy towards the end, because I just wanted more freedom. So I think also success to me is freedom, really.
Yeah, thank you. So what is your last thing that you would like to leave with the audience to maybe inspire them on their own journey of self-mastery, and their something to inspire them in on their way of finding their purpose in their life?
So I think there's a good quote that I found that every great move forward in your life begins with a leap of faith, a step into the unknown. And I think that's really important. You know, in life you've got your known knowns, your known unknowns, your unknown unknowns, and I think, which I always really quite like that saying as well. But I think just embrace the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and when you say that about the known unknowns and the unknown knowns, it's for the audience to be clear, it's like, for example, the little girl who doesn't know that she can't drive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she starts realizing that, you know, her daddy drives or her mum drives, or, you know, the bus driver's driving. Oh, but she can't drive. And then she starts to do her driving lessons eventually when she's old enough, and she's driving, but you really have to think about it, and you have to make sure you look in the mirror behind you and that you're putting on the you know, to turn left or to turn right. And then all of a sudden it becomes so conscious and so known that you drive automatically from A to B, and you almost forget that you know, you don't remember the journey, do you? And that unknown step that you're talking about can be absolutely terrifying, because it's almost like you're leaping out, you're taking a step onto something that's not even there. So yeah, being able to face that fear and step into the unknown and take that leap of faith, knowing that next step is going to be there.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Chloe.
Thank you, Juliette. I've really loved my time on here, and the
Yeah.
sauna's lovely and warm.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to have you. And you know, like I've said to my other guests, maybe we'll have you back on at another point in another year or so in your journey. And yeah, I will leave your links so that people can get in touch with you if they're interested in connecting. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely. Bye.
Thank you to Matt and Ken at Thermalux UK for offering their saunas as a space for me to record my podcast in. Soulful Saunas, stories of self-mastery.